this person who doesn't seem like I can connect with them at all. I'm going to love on everyone, including kids with special needs and including their parents. But I want to broaden it out to, it's everybody. It's everyone that comes through those doors. That's your neighbor. So we're looking at who's our neighbor today. Specifically, we're talking about children and families with special needs. So love in our church. This verse was part of one of the things that we read, that Pochi read at the beginning. And I'm just going to skip down a little bit. It says, if one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. Now you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is a part of it. And I think that I got to see that in our church, in our little tiny church in Tennessee. We're all together. So if you have a child in your church that has special needs, and hey, they got to sit through, they made it through song service. Maybe they never made it through anything else, but they made it through song service this Sabbath. Hey, guess what? Everyone's going to rejoice. Everyone's going to rejoice with you because they're sharing in your successes, and we're all coming together as a family. So let's learn more about how we can support those parts of the body. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the preparation. Some things that you can do is have a church coordinator. So you have like a point person at your church. Carolina shared about how they took pictures of, here's the pastor, here's the Sabbath school teacher, here's this person, so that Fernando could have a kind of a preview beforehand, so not everybody is a stranger. Some faces look familiar. I think that would be helpful for any kid, walking into a new church. Maybe even some adults, that might be helpful if you can say, like, this is the pastor, these are the elders, that could be something that's helpful. Church welcome story is when you have a little book with those leaders, and you can walk them through, show them, this is the room where we're going to go to Sabbath school. So that it's not the first time that they walk in there that they're like, whoa, all these colors, and everything is overstimulating. Preparing the families to get to church early, that's something that Iliana and Carolina and Pochi did, because it's scary sometimes as adults to go into a new environment, let alone a child to go into a new environment. And encouraging the families to wake up early to prepare everything. How many of you have ever arrived at work late? Anybody? You got some numbers over here. Okay. If you ever arrived at work late, is it not a little bit more stressful because you don't have time to put away all your stuff and everything, and the phone's ringing and you're running all over the place? Imagine the kid, when a whole family has a really rushed morning routine, and then you get to church, and then there's all these stresses, and then, man, they changed that. There used to be this poster over here, but now that poster's not there, and then they moved the podium, and there's all these changes. So that morning routine can set the tone for what the church service is like. Okay, for keeping records, so the best way to know what causes the child to have difficulties is keeping track of those things. So I think Catalina and Hila both talked about this, but it's that incident happens and then you look, you're going to be a little investigator, you're going to be a little Sherlock Holmes over here, and you say, well, what happened before that led to this? So sometimes Fernando would be in the classroom, and then, he would start grabbing the lamp. Sometimes he would shake it, and so, like, hey, Fernando, it's okay, tranquilo, it's okay. Can you sit over here? And, sometimes if he, most of the time he just goes ahead and moves. But if he's like more stubborn or something, then afterwards I ask Carolina, hey, how was the morning, And she tells me, actually, you kind of had a rough morning, And she can tell me like some things that happened before that. A lot of times Carolina or Pochi would tell me before the class starts, hey, Amanda, today was kind of, we had a little bit of a rush this morning, or he didn't get to sleep until late last night. So she kind of gives me a preview about that. And that can help to see what are the triggers, what is causing this to happen. And that way you can be preventative. Then you're like, ooh, he doesn't get sleep, this is a result. And then you can be kind of proactive in it instead. All right, so knowing your children, the thing is developing a plan. I put a green crayon here because I had Fernando in beginners Sabbath school first, and we would be calling a picture of Jesus, and I would give him a brown crayon, and he's like, nope, not today, he's not about to color that thing with brown. But if I gave him a green crayon, then he was all about it. He'd color that whole page green. So it's not knowing your kids and what will connect with them. Some kids really like the music and they like the rhythm, with the little instruments. So just knowing your kids and how to connect them and get them to enjoy being Sabbath. Being intentional. I put the stand time image there because that's something I did with my kids when I taught just in a regular classroom. Sometimes kids, it's like overwhelming. I have to do 50 math problems. I'm never going to get through 50 math problems. But if I use the stand timer, I said, Johnny, you only have to for this much time, and then you can take out your Play-Doh. Well, great, I can take out my Play-Doh, I'll do math until the sun runs out all the time. And then I would increase it to 30 to 1 minute, and then a 3 minute, until I don't have to use the same timer anymore because you realize it's not as bad as I thought it would be. So I can do that, if you do that with your kids in Sabbath school, they can be time, you can say, when the minute hand gets all the way to the 12, then it's going to be time to sit down on the rug. So they can kind of have a visual. Reducing anxiety, this is the thing that, now you can kind of see a picture of what that might look like. This is what Indiana described with first and then. They have, the church has a lot of different processes. You know, there's the welcome, and the children's story, and then, this person, and this special needs, the offertory, and everything else. There's a lot to sort through. So you can just do two things. First, we're going to do this, and then this. That reduces their anxiety because they only have to focus on two things. So, something really helpful. Give me a break. Sometimes adults need a little time out, right? That's why you have your lunch break in the middle of the day where you can okay, this, my work is really stressful, but I get, an hour or 30 minutes where I can sit in my car and eat my lunch. Sometimes kids need a timeout, and that can look like you're actually physically moving them from that space to another space. Another thing that you could do is have them put on headphones. If what's happening in the church is too overwhelming for them, you can ask them, hey, do you need a break? And they can go to this, put on their headphones, and they're in a totally different place, and then they get to take that break that sometimes we need to. Let's give me a break.
I'm going to give a little example. I have a friend, she was working with a kid. And they give you 3 little papers. 2 of them was for the parents to help, and 1 was for the kid. The papers say break. The parents can see when they need a break, and they give you 1 of the papers. Okay, you can have a break, you can go to this specific room. And then the kid was to the room, had a little break, and come back to the church. Sometimes for him or for the lady, the girl, was too overwhelmed, they give the paper to the parents. Okay, I need a break. This is too much for me. That way they can be part of that. Give me a break, or the parents can be, here you go, you need a break. You are being a little loud. We cannot work in this right now. Let's go take a break.
The next slide is about child self-assessment. And so we have these little faces that Elaine made, and you can show them some of them. If they're nonverbal and they can't describe, I'm feeling really upset right now because someone took my crayon and then broke it. They can't say that, but they can point to a face and they can say, that's exactly how I feel, right there. They can point to it. And so you can use these visuals to give your kids a tool for communication. The one with the thermometer, that's something that I used when I taught 3rd and 4th grade. When 2 kids just got into the playground, I had them come in, there's a desk, and they get to pull out that thermometer, and I had them color, how hot are you right now? How bad is it? And they would color up, I'm 100 degrees, I'm all the way mad, or I'm only a little bit mad, but I got, someone cut me in line. So that you're giving them some communication instead of just, I'm feeling bad. Well, now you can quantify that.
Also, you can put the picture with a picture of them. If they feel happy, they can see how they feel happy sometimes, and they can put it together. Okay, that's when I feel happy. They can see when they're tired. They can see the faces go first, and then the pictures go along with that. That way they can put it together and be intentional with that.
And I think that's really neat because it's them. And what kid doesn't like looking at themselves? So it's a picture of them. All right, so we have child self-awareness. Now let's have adult self-awareness. So you can, as an adult, you can anticipate what are those difficulties. So maybe the adults didn't get good sleep that night. That means that my patience is really not there. So you can be aware of what are your triggers as an adult working with kids that have special needs. And what's your emotional reaction? If I respond in a way that's man, I raised my voice to that kid, they're really receptive of your response to them. And so you can't be no, I'm not upset at all. They can totally see through that. The next thing is communication with parents. It's critical that you have communication with the parents, and I think that's been something that's been successful, that's helped us to be successful with Fernando and other kids in the church, is I tell the parents how their kids did in Sabbath school that day, good and bad, I tell them, and the parents tell me, how their kids, hey, this happened, or he got in a fight with his sister this morning, so just be aware of that, and so that communication with parents is key for all of the kids. Is anyone in here a Sabbath school teacher? No, okay, well, y'all are empowered, so share with your Sabbath school teachers this information. Prioritize making changes. Sometimes you're like, oh man, I want the kids to be doing this, and I want them to be participating, I want them to say the memory verse, and I want them to do all these things, and you're like, whoa, time out for you. Choose the one thing. Like, if your objective is, I want him to be able to say one of his memory verses by the end of this quarter. Great, and you just work on that one memory verse. Week 10, I'm going to work on week 10, the whole quarter, and at the end, by the time it's week 10, that kid knows that memory verse. So prioritize what you want the kid to learn, and involving other members of your family and possibly from your church. And the importance of being consistent. If I'm working on tying shoes, and I say, well, you do the 2 bunny ears first, and then you do it like this. And then someone else teaches him how to tie his shoes, and says like, oh no, that whole bunny ears thing, that's not the way you do it. You do it like this. Then the kid's like, whoa, I'm trying to learn how to tie shoes here. It's really confusing. And you need to do the same thing multiple times so that it's more cemented for them. So it's really important that you're consistent when you're trying to get the child to make changes. Modeling. This is really important for all kids. If I was to say, all right, so it's time for memory verse, I'm like, oh, this kid, they never know their memory verse. I'm not even going to call on John over here because he never knows it. And the kid's going to be like, ooh, something's up, Miss Amanda's not calling on Johnny. So I include all the kids. I include the kids who came 2 minutes before and walked into the classroom. I include the kids who have special needs. I include everybody, and that way you're modeling to them that hey, you need to include all the kids too. So when it comes time to coloring, you're not like, well that kid, because I just learned that Miss Amanda's treating that kid differently, so that means I don't have to share my pens with them either. So it's important that as adults we model accepting behavior. All right, so now I'm going to read to you this poem. It's called The Attitudes of an Exceptional Child, and I think it's pretty great. So, it says, this is written by Andre Massey in 1968. It says, Blessed are you who take time to listen. Blessed are you who take time to listen to difficult speech. For you help us to know that if we persevere, we can be understood. Blessed are you who walk with us in public places and ignore the stares of strangers. For in your companionship, we find havens of relaxation. Blessed are you who never bind us up to hurry. And the more blessed are you who do not snatch our tasks from our hands and do them for us. For often we need time rather than help. Blessed are you who stand beside us as we enter new and untried ventures. For our failures will be outweighed by the time when we surprise ourselves and you. Blessed are you when by all these things you assure us that the things that make us individuals is not our peculiar muscles, not our wounded nervous system, not in our difficulties in learning, but in the God-given self which no infirmity can confine. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, and know that you give us reassurance that can never be spoken in words. For you deal with us as Christ deals with all of his children. Blessed are you indeed.
Amen. Amen.
So you can see here, this is our contact information. So if you want to write down Pochi's phone number or the email address for the Autism Inclusion Movement, you can jot that down. I just want to share, we're up here, we're not just saying, we have all the answers and we do everything right and everything everyone else does is terrible. We're up here sharing what our experience has been, and so hopefully that has been beneficial to you. And if you have any questions, if we know something, we're happy to share what we've experienced with you. So, does anyone need this up for a little bit more before we go to our resource? Okay, cool. leave that up there for a little bit more. And then the last slide has our resources on there. And so you'll see a list of websites that you can jot down. We also have a sign-up list if you want us to email you the PowerPoint or any other information that we've collected. We're happy to do that. So if you want to come up at the end and sign the sheet. Any points for Abuela over here? So, Abuela?
This has been a lot of information.